Pravajakacharya, Asatara Sat Sri Srimati's Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, the holy appearance day of Srimati Radharani Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, and all glories to the assembled devotees. So today I will be reading about Srimati Radharani's love, the purity of it, the intensity of it, the sweetness of it, and what binds Krishna to it. Well, we had a light. Maybe you can fix that. It wasn't flickering before. Okay, that'd be good. Just stand by. Okay. So, this talk will be on about Rādhāṣṭamī, Srimati Radharani's magnificent appearance day. Hare Krishna and happy Rādhāṣṭamī to all of you listeners and viewers here and online. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter of his lotus feet. Our respectful obeisances unto you, O spiritual master, servant of Saraswati Goswami. You are kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Dev and delivering the Western countries which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. Today is Rādhāṣṭamī, which means the birthday of Srimati Radharani, the eternal and leading consort of Lord Krishna. Therefore, it is quite befitting for all devotees of Lord Krishna to celebrate her divine appearance day, which is today, the 25th of August, 2020. Our ISKCON devotee, Bhakti Purushottama Swami, wrote a great book about Srimati Radharani called The Glories and Pastimes of Srimati Radharani. It was published and copyrighted in 2008. Can we not have noise here, please? It doesn't go, or it doesn't harmonize, let's say. Our ISKCON devotee, Bhakti Purushottama Swami, wrote a great book about Srimati Radharani called The Glories and Pastimes of Srimati Radharani. It was published and copyrighted in 2008 by ISKCON Mayapur and has been successfully circulated throughout the world, receiving numerous praises, appreciations, and glorifications. It is my great honor to read to you now Chapter 2 of this compelling book, whose title is The Greatness of Radharani's Love for Krishna. It is my fond hope and prayer that whoever listens to this wonderful Chapter 2 attentively and faithfully will receive an ocean of blessings, blessings to love Radha and Krishna with eternal affection, now and forever. I beg all of you listeners to bless me with the pure loving ability to read this chapter in a manner that will touch and stir all of your devoted hearts. And may my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, bless me with his incomparable mercy, sweetness, and kindness, which will be his blessings upon all of you also. Your servant and well-wisher, Amala-bhakta Swami. So this is, if none of you have seen this book, it's very, very beautiful. You can take a look. And written nicely, lots of gorgeous artwork in it. And as I said, I'm proud to have the opportunity and honor to read it. So this is Chapter 2. The Greatness of Radharani's Love for Krishna. Sorry. People in general do not understand the pure, loving relationship between Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna. Radharani's loving affairs with Krishna are not ordinary, mundane loving affairs. One must understand the pure form of Radharani's love for Krishna, which this talk will be about. In this material world, if there is attraction between two people, they say, "I love you." In this material world, but actually, this word love is not a word to be used in this context, but only for the unalloyed loving relationship between Krishna and the living entities. Love means there is no self-interest, that one works only for the satisfaction of Lord Krishna. Because material love is always based on sense gratification, it is actually lust, not love. When some people read in Scripture about the loving relationship between Radha and Krishna, immediately they think of material love. But the loving relationship between Krishna and Radharani is pure love, because Radharani is loving Krishna only for his satisfaction. In fact, Radharani is Krishna's internal potency, whose business is to give pleasure to Krishna. That's known as the Ladini Shakti. Again, in fact, Radharani is Krishna's internal potency, whose business is to give pleasure to Krishna. From time immemorial, she has been serving Krishna with devotion to please him. Thus, it is necessary for us to know the difference between love and lust, that we might understand Radharani's loving mood. It appears like what we see in the world today, but it is anything but that. It is completely different. It is unparalleled, and it comes from such a degree of selfless, surrendered devotion that it is hard to even understand. It can be understood, however, by the mercy of Srimati Radharani. She can enable us to understand it, because she has it. And not only that, but she knows what we must do to attain it. Thus, it is necessary for us to know the difference between love and lust, that we might understand Radharani's loving mood. Now I will quote from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita on this subject matter, as it has been explained by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who is the author of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, along with Srila Prabhupada's purports. Thank you. The love of the gopis, see, that's devotional service. He could hear by my voice it was drying out, and he just went ahead and did something. I didn't have to even ask. No, that's what you get from this book, what you just saw demonstrated. The love of the gopis is called Rudha Bhava. It is pure and spotless. It is not at any time lust. Purport. The position of gopis in their loving dealings with Krishna is transcendental. Their emotion is called Radha Bhava. Although it is apparently like mundane sex desire, one should not confuse it with mundane sexual love, for it is pure and unadulterated love of Godhead. Lust and love have different characteristics, just as iron and gold have different natures. The desire to gratify one's own senses is kama, lust. But the desire to please the senses of Lord Krishna is prema, love. So there is a difference there. Please myself, lust. Please Krishna's senses, love. One should try to discriminate between sexual love and pure love, for they belong to different categories, with a gulf of difference between them. They are as different from one another as iron is from gold. The revealed scriptures describe pure love as follows, quote, "If there is ample reason for the dissolution of a conjugal relationship, and yet such a dissolution does not take place, such relationship of intimate love is called pure." The predominated gopis, we say predominated, they were predominated over by Krishna. He was their beloved, and that's all they thought of. So, the predominated gopis were bound to Krishna in such pure love. For them, there was no question of sexual love, based on sense gratification. Their only engagement in life was to see Krishna happy in all respects, regardless of their own personal interests. So one may ask himself or herself, well, how does that pertain to us? Well, whatever we're doing, we should have an image, ideally, of Krishna in our heart. And whatever we are doing, as Krishna says, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, whatever you give away, do it for me. In this way, you'll be freed from the bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. With your mind fixed on me in this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and you will come to me. So Krishna is making a statement of a promise. And he's saying that if you offer it to me, you will get free of the attachment that you normally have for that particular object, for oneself to enjoy it. Because we will be thinking, I want Krishna to enjoy it. For example, you're cooking. Now, you can cook and be thinking of 10 different other things. You can think of the weather. You may be thinking of the rain coming. You may be thinking of the virus. You may be thinking of any number of things, somebody who you're expecting to telephone you. So this is not the way to perform devotional service. Krishna says, whatever you do, do it for me. So if you do it for Krishna, we have to do it with our mind, our heart, our love on Krishna. And our idea should be, my dear Lord, please help me to make it better. Make it good, make it excellent, make it perfect. As long as we're thinking of Krishna and we're asking, we're begging, we're crying out to him to please help us to make it good, well, the way he would like it. This is pure devotional love. But when our mind begins to drift onto so many different things, we're not thinking of Krishna, therefore we're not thinking of how good the product or the preparation will turn out, and the result is that it's just some action which may have some spiritual benefit in the sense that it will be ultimately offered to Krishna. As to whether Krishna will accept it is a whole other matter. Krishna generally likes to accept those things which have been prepared with love and devotion. And he really doesn't need the food, but he enjoys the love and devotion because that increases his own love. And his own love becomes higher and higher, more and more intense. And in that field, Srimati Radharani is the person who can best give him the greatest amount of pleasure. So one may say, well, why does he need pleasure? Krishna is already all blissful. That's true. But bliss is not a statious thing. It's not a here or a there. It's ever increasing, like a mountain. You keep going up and going. And Krishna himself, that's why Srimati Radharani is there, not only to teach us how to serve and love Krishna, but because he actually enjoys the increase of his own enjoyment. So when we want to enjoy something, we should understand where it originates from. But it is best that we always try and strive to give Krishna the best that we know how, and ideally try to get more of knowledge and more of how to do this, because he can give us that from within. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give them the understanding by which they may come to me. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, to show them special mercy, I dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So Krishna makes a promise there. If we lack something in our service, he will help make up the difference if we beg him, we cry for him, we look up to him. And by doing that, it creates a very tighter and tighter relationship with the Supreme Lord. And the Supreme Lord gives us more and more of his affection, of his protection, of his guidance and direction. So I'll continue with the reading here. The author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, asserts with authority that sexual love is a matter of personal sense enjoyment, emphasis on the word personal. All the regulative principles in the Vedas pertaining to desires for popularity, fatherhood, wealth, and so on, are different phases of sense gratification. Acts of sense gratification may be performed under the cover of public welfare, nationalism, religion, altruism, ethical codes, biblical codes, health directives, fruitive action, bashfulness, tolerance, personal comfort, liberation from material bondage, progress, family affection, or fear of social ostracism or legal punishment. But all these categories are different subdivisions of one substance, sense gratification. All such good acts are performed basically for one's own sense gratification. For no one can sacrifice his personal interest while discharging these much advertised moral and religious principles. But above all this is a transcendental stage in which one feels himself to be only an eternal servant of Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead. That is sometimes difficult for one to think of oneself as a servant, because many people are always desiring to be somebody important, somebody great, somebody glorious, and it conflicts with their material desires. But we can have our material activities, but they are to be set aside from our activities which are in focus with the Supreme Lord. Okay? So, in other words, as it's mentioned over here, everything that we do, we should be thinking, this is for my beloved Lord. This is for Krishna. This is for the person who is maintaining me, who is guiding me, who is loving me, who is housing me, who is giving me medication. He's giving me everything I need to get on with my life. And therefore, this is good enough reason to want to devote everything and anything that we have to the Supreme Lord who has provided it for us. Moving ahead on this, all acts to be only an eternal servitor of Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead. All acts performed in this sense of servitude are called pure love of God, because they are performed for the absolute sense gratification of Sri Krishna. However, any act performed for the purpose of enjoying its fruits or results is an act of sense gratification, enjoying for oneself. So the one can very easily make a test. Am I doing this for myself, or am I doing this for Krishna? Well, that's why we always say that once the meal has been prepared, offer it to Krishna first. Don't start eating it, and then after you've eaten half of it, give it to Krishna. Because he deserves it first. He's first in our life. He's giving us air to breathe, food to eat, light to see. So therefore, he's giving us everything. We can't do anything without his mercy. So that's why we want to give to him first what we are going to offer. So such actions are visible. I skipped a line. However, any act performed for the purpose of enjoying its fruits or results is an act of sense gratification. Such actions are visible sometimes in gross and sometimes in subtle forms. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami continues, the object of lust is only the enjoyment of its own senses. But love caters to the enjoyment of Lord Krishna, and thus it is very powerful. Social customs, scriptural injunctions, bodily demands, fruit of action, shyness, patience, bodily pleasures, sense gratification, and the path of Varnashram Dharma, which is difficult to give up, the gopis have forsaken, again I emphasize, the gopis have forsaken all these along with their families and suffered their relatives' punishment and scolding. Yeah, they went out when Krishna blew his flute at night, and they heard the flute, they were not only intoxicated by the sound, but they were attracted or compelled to see the source of the sound. And so they immediately got up. For example, if they were at the table or they were sitting on their beds or they were talking, they jumped up and swooshed out of the door. Their fathers and their uncles and their brothers told them, hey, where are you going? You can't go. It's dark. It's night. Young ladies don't go out now. They couldn't care less about those instructions. Their only concern was onefold: get to Krishna and as fast as possible. So they were, some of them were stopped and they were not allowed to go there, and they were pulled back and they had to sit in their rooms while some of their friends, they were able to get to Krishna. That was the night of the Ras Leela night. But many of these women, young women, who were sitting in their rooms were meditating very deeply on Krishna, so deeply that they were ready to go back to Godhead immediately. They could not think anything. They could not feel anything. They could not know anything except Krishna, 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 Krishna. That's a very high state. It cannot be faked. If you have acting ability and you try to do that as an actor, perish it. It's useless. Better to just let Krishna work from within. And if he brings that kind of feeling from, then let it come out. But on the other hand, don't try to affect it as if it were yours when we haven't reached that state of high elevation. Continuing. Again, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami continues, the object of lust is only the enjoyment of one's own senses, but love caters to the enjoyment of Lord Krishna, and thus it is very powerful. Social customs, I read this. Now, all of these which I just mentioned, they render loving service, social customs, scriptural injunctions, bodily demands, fruit of action, shyness, patience, bodily pleasures, self-gratification, and the path of Varnashram Dharma, which is difficult to give up. The gopis have forsaken all these along with their families and suffered their relatives' punishment and scolding, all for the sake of serving Lord Krishna. They never think that, is Krishna really worth getting all this scolding for? I mean, my mother, my father, everybody's shouting at me. Is he what? Not is he worth it, but they're ready to die for him 1,000,000 times over. That's the kind of love they have. This is known the Madhurya Ras. They render loving service to him for the sake of his what? His enjoyment. That is called from firm attachment to Lord Krishna. It is spotlessly pure, like a clean cloth that has no stain. Therefore, lust and love are quite different. Lust is like dense darkness, but love is like the bright sun. Thus, there is not the slightest taint of lust in the gopis' love. Their relationship with Krishna is only for the sake of his enjoyment. Quote, "O dearly beloved, your lotus feet are so soft that we place them gently on our breasts, fearing that your feet will be hurt. Our life rests only in you. Our minds, therefore, are filled with anxiety that your tender feet might be wounded by pebbles as you roam about on the forest path." The gopis do not care for their own pleasures or pains. All their physical and mental activities are directed toward offering enjoyment to Lord Krishna. They renounced everything for Krishna. They have pure attachment to giving Krishna pleasure. Oh, quote, "Oh, my beloved gopis, you have renounced social customs, scriptural injunctions, and your relatives for my sake," says Krishna. "I disappeared behind you." There was a point in the before the Ras Leela actually took place, is that the gopis were with Krishna, and then suddenly he disappeared. And they went mad, they went crazy, they went wild. Where is Krishna? What has happened to Krishna? He is our life and soul. It was like somebody took their heart out of their chest and they were just going without a true beat. So they were speaking like that. They couldn't get their mind off Krishna. They were talking to the trees. Oh, Jati tree. Oh, Malati tree. Nag-Champa tree. Have you seen the son of Maharaj Nanda? Do you know where he is? Do you know where he went? Well, how are we going to find him? So this is what is being referred to here. And Krishna says that in spite of all, Krishna said, "Oh, my beloved gopis, you have renounced social customs, scriptural injunctions, and your relatives. For my sake, I disappeared behind you only to increase your concentration upon me. Since I disappeared for your benefit, you should not be displeased with me." In spite of this, we see that the gopis are taking care of their body. Some of you ladies may be interested in this particular point especially. In spite of this, we see that the gopis are taking care of their bodies and decorating themselves very nicely. How can one understand that they are not acting for their own sense gratification? You know, they're putting the makeup on, the lipstick and this and that. So, is this for them or is this for who? In this regard, Krishna Kaviraj Das says, now, whatever affection we see the gopis show for their own bodies, know it for certain to be only for the sake of Lord Krishna. The gopis think, quote, "I have offered this body to Lord Krishna. He is its owner, and it brings him enjoyment. Krishna finds joy in seeing and touching this body," unquote. It is for this reason that they cleanse and decorate their bodies, so that Krishna will get pleasure in looking at it, and in such pleasure they feel great inner joy. The gopis think, okay, another point. "O Arjuna, there are no greater receptacles of deep love for me than the gopis, who cleanse and decorate their bodies because they consider them my bodies." And that's very interesting. That's not only for ladies, it's for everybody. Who made this body? Krishna. Who is enabling it to work? Krishna. If we are conscious of this, how can we not be Krishna conscious? Krishna conscious means being aware of the true situation. Where we came from. Why are we here? Where do we ultimately go? So when we have that in our consciousness, how can we not have the thought, the feeling, the love for Krishna? Okay. Yes. In his purports to these verses, Srila Prabhupada writes, quote, "The selfless love of Godhead exhibited by the gopis cannot have any parallel. We should not, therefore, misunderstand the carefulness of the gopis in their personal decoration. The gopis dress themselves as beautifully as possible just to make Krishna happy by seeing them." So their happiness was based upon Krishna being happy, not upon somebody praising them, somebody honoring them, somebody looking up to them and saying, "Oh yes, I'm happy because he admired me or she admired me." It's not my happiness, it's that the beloved, the one who looked at it, got happy, and that happiness increases the gopis' happiness. So, yes, the gopis dress themselves as beautifully as possible just to make Krishna happy by seeing them. They had no ulterior desires. They dedicated their bodies and everything they possessed to the service of Sri Krishna, taking it for granted that their bodies were meant for his enjoyment. They dressed themselves with the understanding that Krishna would be happy by seeing and touching them. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami continues, there is another wonderful feature of the emotion of the gopis. Its power is beyond the comprehension of the intelligence. When the gopis see Lord Krishna, they derive unbounded bliss, although they have no desire for such pleasure. The gopis taste a pleasure 10 million times greater than the pleasure Lord Krishna derives from seeing them. The gopis have no inclination for their own enjoyment, and yet their joy increases. That is indeed a contradiction. So that's very interesting. The gopis have no inclination for their own enjoyment because they're concerned with Krishna's enjoyment. And that is a total detachment from one's own body. Having detached oneself, considering that body belongs to Krishna, why should I be attached to? It's for him to be attached if he wants to be attached. So in that sense, they are always thinking how they can increase or improve the pleasure of Krishna. For this contradiction, I see only one solution. The joy of the gopis lies in the joy of their beloved Krishna. When Lord Krishna sees the gopis, his joy increases, and his unparalleled sweetness increases also. The gopis think, Krishna has obtained so much pleasure by seeing me. That thought increases the fullness and beauty of their faces and bodies. The beauty of Lord Krishna increases at the sight of the beauty of the gopis, and the more the gopis see Lord Krishna's beauty, the more their beauty increases. In this way, a competition takes place between them in which no one acknowledges defeat. Krishna, however, derives pleasure from the beauty and good qualities of the gopis. And when the gopis see his pleasure, the joy of the gopis increases. Therefore, we find that the joy of the gopis nourishes the joy of Lord Krishna. For that reason, the fault of lust is not present in their love. So I should just mention one other point that's mentioned in our scriptures. When the gopis are feeling love and joy, it's all being felt in the heart area. It has nothing to do with that part of the body from the navel down. That is a different part, and the pleasure that that part gives is billions and billions of times less than that which is coming in the upper heart region. And that upper heart region, it is spreading all over and manifesting as various symptoms. Sometimes crying, tears, sometimes perspiration, sometimes the hairs are standing up, sometimes a person is trembling. These are just different symptoms of pure devotional love and ecstasy. So it is a different situation completely. Why would one, if he has that ecstasy, that pleasure, spiritual pleasure, what we call transcendental pleasure, why would one want to go down to a lower level of pleasure? He doesn't. There's no need anymore. So that is why great sages generally have no need, no recourse, no interest in sexual activity because they got something better. It's a little like bread. If you've been eating stale bread all your life, you know it's hard, brittle, can break your teeth when you chew down on it. So suddenly, after 10 years of eating stale bread, somebody gives you baked bread. It's just come right out of the oven. You say, wow, this is incredible. This is what I want for the rest of my life. Forget the stale stuff. You can give that to the rats outside. I don't want this. I don't want that anymore. So this is a very important point. You give up something lower for a higher. And the higher is so nourishing, as it's meant, so satisfying, so fulfilling, that there's no reason to even consider something like that. And that's why they can say celibate. It's not that, of course, initially you have to apply a bit of force. It doesn't come automatically. The desire for sex, at least at some point, is there. But as one more and more practices devotional services, purifies his heart, purifies the body, purifies his mind, and thinks more and more of the glories, the greatness, the wonder of Krishna, and begs for the mercy to be able to better serve him, love him, understand him. When that happens, those lower desires, lower thoughts, lower feelings disappear completely. That's why we all loved Prabhupada. There was never that idea in his mind. He never looked at any woman, looking at her feet or looking at her breasts. He never did. There was no need for that. There was no desire for that. And as a result of that, all of us felt that this is a pure soul, like Shukdeva Goswami. When Shukdeva Goswami would walk naked past a river or a lake, and there were women bathing naked, and they saw him, they regarded him as if he was just like a tree trunk, because his mood, his feeling was so blah, was so blank and uncaring that to him it didn't matter whether they were women, whether they were mice, or whether they were trees, or whether they were apples. To him it was all the same, because he had no material desire. This is all we need to aspire for. If we don't aspire for this, we never get it. Otherwise, we stay on the lower platform. But if we realize, and I'm trying to implant everyone who's listening, that there is a good reason to aspire for something so great as this, because we are then freed from the entanglement, freed from the shackles, freed from the binding ropes of material desire, material infection, material compulsion. And when we are free from that, we are really free. When people talk about freedom, about this country or this city or this county, that is not freedom. Freedom means to be free of the desires for those things which compel us, which badger us, which beat us and knock us to the point that we begin to take all sorts of things to sometimes to stop this. We may take alcohol, we may take OxyContin, painkillers. We may take different types of ways to stop these and defeat, but that doesn't work because it's temporary. We need a permanent fix, and the permanent fix is Krishna, for he is permanently settled in our hearts, and he is ready to give of himself more and more. Krishna says, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respect. So what is that reward? The reward is himself. And what does that mean? It means his opulences. It means his detachment. It means his his affection, his love, his kindness, his sweetness. All that which is Krishna, he gives a little bit of it to us. And when we have that, we can then function much better. And actually, such persons are very, very desirable to be with. Again, Srila Prabhupada, when I was near him, in fact, I was standing right there when he was here for the 5 days. It was such a wonderful experience to just be with such a person who is so faithful, so truthful, so beautiful in his manifestation. So I feel blessed to have been in this temple at that time, which was from June 6th, I think, to June 12th of 1976. Moving on. There is another natural symptom of the gopis' love that shows it to be without a trace of lust. The love of the gopis nourishes the sweetness of Lord Krishna. The sweetness in return increases their love, for they are greatly satisfied. The happiness of the abode of love is in the happiness of the object of that love. This is not a relationship of desire for personal gratification. Whenever there is unselfish love, that is its style. The reservoir of love derives pleasure when the lovable object is pleased. When the pleasure of love interferes with the service of Lord Krishna, the devotee becomes angry towards such ecstasy. Let me read this example. The example of this is cited in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 3.262. Sri Daruka, who is the charioteer of Lord Krishna, did not relish his ecstasy feelings of love, For they caused, this is so important, for they caused his limbs to become stunned, and thus obstructed his service of fanning Lord Krishna. So he was more concerned with pleasing Krishna through the fanning than being pleased with the ecstasy that he was getting from doing the fanning. Consequently, he got angry at his body. He said, I don't need this. I just want to do my service. Can you imagine? Most people are running around trying to get drugs or whatever they can for some ecstasy. This great soul, he's saying, no, I don't. All I want is to make Krishna cool with this fan going up and down. This is real bhakti, devotional, loving service, what we should all be striving for. It's a little hot out there. So some people would say, oh, Lord, why are you making it so hot? I hardly can function. He's making it hot because he has a plan. And even if you don't know the plan, doesn't matter. He has the plan. Harmonize with the plan, and you will feel happy and cool notwithstanding. That's my own personal experience. So, we got that part finished, or whenever. Yeah, I just gave the example of Daruka, and we're coming near the end of this. And then I will read the 25 different characteristics that Srimati Radharani has, again, which we should all try to strive for. Continuing on, also from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 2.3.54, the Lotus-Eyed Radharani powerfully condemned the ecstatic love that caused a flow of tears that hindered her sight of Govinda. Now this is a very high level. If you're crying out of love or separation for Krishna, let the tears come. Let them go. We shouldn't stop them up. But when you get to this level, which all she wants to do, she cannot concern herself with herself. She's only concerned with pleasing Krishna, then she doesn't want her tears. She couldn't care less for her tears. She wants nothing to obstruct, nothing to push aside that flow of constant focus of love on Krishna and pleasing him. So, going on. The Lotus-Eyed Radharani powerfully condemned the ecstatic love that caused a flow of tears that hindered her sight of Govinda. Furthermore, pure devotees never forsake the loving service of Lord Krishna to aspire for their own personal pleasure, though through 5 kinds of liberation. In this regard, Srila Prabhupada has said, quote, a pure devotee of Krishna who loves the Lord exclusively will flatly refuse to accept any sort of this fake liberation. All he wants to do is serve, 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 serve. He's never concerned about himself. The concept of ego has transferred itself to the Lord. And all the devotee tries to do is to satisfy his own ego, which is now transferred to the Lord. And when the Lord shows pleasure, that's when the devotee also feels pleasure, because God is now smiling broader, and as a result of that broader smile, the devotee feels he has added an inch or an inch and a half of more joy in the smile to Krishna. That's all he wants. A pure devotee of Krishna who loves him exclusively. I've already read that, sorry. The natural love of the gopis is devoid of any trace of lust. It is faultless, bright, and pure, like molten gold. The gopis are the helpers, teachers, friends, wives, dear disciples, confidants, and serving maids of Lord Krishna. The gopis know Krishna's desires, and they know how to render perfect loving service for his enjoyment. They perform their service expertly for the satisfaction of their beloved. Now there are 3 more quotes here. Among the gopis, Srimati Radharani is the foremost. She surpasses all in beauty, in good qualities, in good fortune, and above all, in love. In this regard, it is said, just as Radha is dear to Lord Krishna, so her bathing place, Radhakund, is dear to him. She alone is the most beloved of all the gopis. How many of us have bathed in Radhakund? Anybody here? Oh, how wonderful. You got to get there. Okay. It's very, very nice. Lord Krishna himself has said, O Partha, in all the 3 planetary systems, this earth is especially fortunate. For on earth is the town of what? Starts with a V. Yes, Vrindavan. And there, the gopis are especially glorious because among them is my Srimati Radharani, whom I love endlessly and infinitely. This is all from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which I recommend to all. Now, as to Radharani's 25 transcendental qualities, I will read them now from this collection that I've gotten. These you will find in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, Srimati Radharani has 25 transcendental qualities with which she can control even Krishna. Yes, Radharani can control Krishna, and nobody in the world can control Krishna. So if you can control Radharani, you automatically get control over Krishna. That should not be our goal, to control Krishna. But it just happens automatically to the degree of selflessness, surrender, and just giving of oneself, submitting oneself to the Lord. And he sees that you have made yourself his totally, then what can he do but give his love more and more to us. So she is a fresh young girl. Her eyes are always moving. She is always brightly smiling. 5, she possesses all auspicious marks on her body. She can agitate Krishna by the aroma of her person. She is expert in the art of singing. She speaks very nicely and sweetly. She is expert in presenting feminine attractions. She is modest and gentle. She is always very merciful. She is transcendently cunning. She knows how to dress nicely. She is always shy. She is also always respectful. She is always patient. 17, she is very grave. She is enjoyed by Krishna. She is always situated on the highest devotional platform. She is the abode of love of the residents of Gokul. She can give shelter to all kinds of devotees. She is always affectionate to superiors and inferiors. She is always obliged by the dealings of her associates. She is the greatest among Krishna's girlfriends. 25, she always keeps Krishna under her control. And he wants to be under her control. It's not like he's being controlled and he doesn't like it. He loves it because it is so fraught, so filled, so overwhelmed with love. And he loves the love because it increases his own love and it increases his own transcendental bliss. Okay? Thank you so much. Are there any questions? I'll take one or two. Or do you all want to get out now? Sometimes my voice can get a bit tiring. Are there any particular questions that anyone has? Yes, Prabhu. Why don't you come a little closer, because my hearing is definitely...
You were mentioning that Radharani only Radharani can attract for Krishna. If you like, we have a saying, Lord Krishna is called Madan Mahan.
Yes.
Because Lord Krishna can attract even the Madan.
Yeah, the Cupid.
And Radharani is called Madan Mahan.
Yeah, the attractor. The attractive, the attractor. Right.
Can you just explain anything more about this?
Well, the first part was that was Madan Mohan. So that I know I've dealt with this before, but right at the moment I'm having a little difficulty. But the first part is that Krishna can attract Cupid. Okay? So then, what's the second part that you said?
Radharani,
Yeah, so there's nothing to really explain. I think it's self-explanatory that she attracts Krishna due to the purity, due to the depth, due to the intensity of her love. And therefore, it is her love. It is not any particular thing that she does, although everything she does adds up to a culmination of great, great, wonderful love. Everything she does. So, and Krishna is pleased. Krishna is satisfied. Sometimes we may find ourselves satisfied with somebody who's showing such devotional love. I mean, I remember back several months back, somebody was showing a tremendous amount of devotional love for me. And it was beyond any that I had for many, many years. So I naturally took a liking, took an attraction, an interest in this particular person. It's just natural. Unfortunately, those things don't always last. But in the case of Krishna, it does last. He will never betray you. He will never walk out on you. He will never say to you, I don't want to be with you anymore. Or if he does, there will be a reason which will help us to become perhaps not always dependent upon the bliss that he's giving us. That should not be the main point. The main point is the service that we can render to him. And when that becomes paramount and what we're getting becomes unimportant, that's what he wants. And Srimati Radharani manifests that. It's not what she was getting. She was saying, my ecstasy, go away. I don't want you. I just want to be free to serve loving, beautiful Krishna. What do you think of that? Yeah, it's so nice, so sweet. Anyone else have any? How about our sage back there? You have so many nice classes you give. No, you're not. I don't want to force you either. But if you want to make a comment, I'm sure you have a lot of. You were raised in this culture. I was raised in dog culture. So I am very grateful that Prabhupada has come and taken me out of my kennel, so that I can know what it is to give a real bark. You know. Yeah. No. Nothing to today. You have something. If you do, you're welcome.
I just remember one beautiful verse. It comes in Padma Puran, where Krishna is saying that the world, everybody wants to run to me for mercy, but Krishna says that Satyam Satyam Punah Satyam Satyam Eva Punah Punah. Krishna is saying that truth, I'm telling you the truth and only truth, and again, Punah Punah, I'm telling you the truth. So Krishna is saying it so many times, so much of emphasis that Vina Radha Prasadena Mad Prasadam na labhyate. So Krishna is saying that the truth and the only truth is, unless and until one receives the mercy of Srimati Radharani, my mercy will not go upon that person. So first you should go and beg for the mercy from Srimati Radharani.
Yeah.
Then only you can get my mercy.
Yes, that's a very good point, because Prabhupada said this, and it says in our books, pray, well, Hare Krishna, what is Hare Krishna? Hare is from Hara, that's Radharani. She's the first divine being that we pray to. Hare Krishna, so Radha Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, again, Radha. So she's always with him. Speaking of Radharani, I have a friend who's sitting just back here. I have a tattoo on my wrist. Now that tattoo originally just had a K on it, okay? And it stood for Krishna. After about 10 years of sitting on my wrist, Krishna got lonely. I would look at my watch, and then I would look at Krishna, and he would say, where's my girlfriend? Why you keep me alone? Krishna is never alone. So now you can see he's a what do they call this? Tattoo. He's a tattoo artist, and he did it free. The first one. What, you have to do the sacrifice? Okay, I'll be out in just one last second, just a few. So this one he did free as a loving service to myself. But the first one, the K, I went into a tattoo place, And I said, how much it will cost me? He said, the minimum cost is $50. I said, $50 for this little K? Sorry, that's our minimum. So I said, that's your minimum. So I said, I'm a monk. I don't have money. All I do is pray to Krishna. I had it, in pen mark there. So he said, well, I can't do anything. That's our policy. I said, then he said to me, you say you're a monk? Where are you a monk from? I said, down the Krishna temple, down there. He says, oh, you're from there? I said, yeah. He said, well, I used to go to their feasts every Sunday. I said, every Sunday you used to go to the Sunday feast? Yeah. I said, then you owe me. You got to pay me. He says, okay, we'll do it for 30. And that was the end of that. Okay? So I hope I haven't bored anyone, and I do hope that everyone will depend upon Krishna, look up to Krishna, bow down to Krishna, beg Srimati Radharani. I'm not contacting, I'm not making any connection with Krishna. Would you please, since you're always connected with him, give me a little assistance, a little help, a little movement towards him, because by myself I can do nothing. Hare Krishna.
Amala-bhakta Maharaj ki jai.